Hi, this is Lee Phillips. I'm still a liar, attorney. Don't hold that against me, okay? I want to talk to you about an ownership of real estate for a minute. Actually, any asset, but we usually think of it as in real estate, and that is tenants in common. Now, a lot of people own real estate as joint tenants with rights of survivorship. That means instantly when one of the joint tenants dies, the other one, the survivor, owns it outright. No probate, no nothing. And it works really well between husband and wife. I'm going to say I've got tapes on this, and if I don't, I'll make them. But never put your kids' names on as a joint tenant. That's a disaster. Kids are like yogurt. You never know when they're going to go bad. So you never put your kid's name on anything with you as a joint tenant. Another way of owning property is tenants in common. Joint tenancy, in theory, both of the joint tenants own 100% of the asset. Tenants in common breaks ownership up into 2 or 3 or 10 pieces. And this tenant in common owns this 50% interest in the property or 10% interest in the property. This tenant in common owns the other 90% interest in the property. They're two individuals. When one guy dies, this piece, the 90%, is in their estate. If their name's on it, if it's not in their trust, then we've got to probate this person's interest. And this guy can't sell the property until this guy's interest is probated and we've got it free and clear. So tenants in common are two different ownerships. Now, husband and wife will do it. That's fine, but you got to remember, when he dies, she doesn't automatically get the property. She's got to probate his asset. Either that or it's got to be in his living revocable trust. Now, tenants in common is a common way of financing real estate. For example, they did a TIC, Tenants in Common, TIC, on the Empire State Building. That means that I invest in the Empire State Building and I own 1/1000th or whatever it is of the Empire State Building. I've got the first 4 bricks as we walk in the front door. We don't actually have a specific set, this is your piece, but I own the 1/1000th. It's mine. And I don't care what these other guys do with their piece. This piece is mine. I can pass it on to my heirs. Now, if it's not in my living trust, it's going to be probated before I pass it on to my heirs. It'll be taxed in my estate. It's mine. And it isn't uncommon to have a piece of real estate ticked, as they say, so that each investor gets a little piece. They get their piece of the tax benefits. They get a piece of the sale when they sell it. They get a piece of the depreciation. I actually own a little piece of this big real estate investment. That's different than a REIT, real estate investment trust, because in the trust, I own an interest in the investment. In the TIC, I actually own a piece of that property. So in some respects, it's a little maybe safer, I don't know. But you can have TICs and you can have REITs and you can have stock in a company that invests in real estate. These are all different ways that they finance real estate. Nothing wrong with the TIC, works pretty well, but you've got to remember it's a separate ownership in this piece of property, and I need to treat it as one of my assets for probate, for taxes, for everything else. I actually own a chunk of that property. This is a tenant in common. It's good in every state. Any state will let you do this. So, if you want to have a piece of property with your kid, probably I wouldn't have it be a tenant, joint tenants. I'd have it be a tenant in common. Now, his piece is his piece. If he dies, it's got to be probated and all that garbage. You got to remember all this. I'm making a point of this because it's very different than joint tenants with rights of survivorship. This is Lee Phillips. I've been talking about tenants in common. Now, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to share this with people who you might think maybe have a problem. If your kids have tenants in common, if mom and dad have tenants in common, that's going to affect you when they become incompetent or die or whatever. So spread this around and make sure that everybody understands what's going on. Lee Phillips, we'll catch you later.